Well, good morning.
Good morning.
We're going to do this right this time. My name is Phyllis.
I'm Gabby.
This is Blooper Troopers. Spoiler alert. I got the spoiler alert this time, right?
Yes, finally in the beginning.
Historically, we have given a spoiler alert about 30 to 45 minutes in after we've spoiled everything. So this one's for you, audience.
We're sorry.
We're sorry. We love you. We're learning. We're growing. And speaking of learning and growing, once again, last week we said we were going to do something, and then we didn't do it.
Oh no, I changed that in
In post?
Elvis.
Well, I take that back then. We did not lie to you. We did exactly what we said we were going to do.
Watch Minions.
This week we watched Minions Rise of Gru at a runtime of an hour 30 minutes, which is a hell of a lot less than Elvis's 2 hours and 40-minute.
Carnival.
It was one big carnival. So many lights, so much action. And Minions was also, I would say, a stimulation overload.
It was a bit, yeah.
It wasn't quite Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. It wasn't so much animation references that I found myself being overwhelmed. It was exactly how Danny Trejo said he wants to do movies, which I love that he had an opinion on this movie. He doesn't want it to be a movie that you have to think about. He didn't want to do a movie that you have to put a lot of effort into as an audience viewer. He said he only wanted to do movies where you can just sit and enjoy. And Minions Rise of Gru is a kid's movie. So
Yes.
if it wasn't that simple, it would not be serving its purpose
Or its audience.
or its audience whatsoever. But in the most simple, dumbed down sense, Minions had a good flow.
It did.
I was intrigued the whole time. As someone that I don't even know how to introduce this belief of mine. I don't really like the Minions.
She does not.
I don't. The way I feel about Minions can be best described as how a dog looks at a chew toy. I'm intrigued. I know if I were to bite on it, it would squeak. And in that way, it is cute to me. I want to play with it and throw it around a little bit and But I'm not going to buy a plushie and chill with it. It's not going to be a sticker on my laptop. The Minions franchise.
Yeah.
It's cute. I get why kids love it. But other than me dressed kind of like a Minion today, Minions, they're not my brand of cute.
No, yeah. I think I'm always shocked when I do see Minions on people's cars and stickers. I think it was a happy accident for that studio. It is the largest movie franchise in that studio, which is Illuminations.
That's awesome. And I know Steve Carell has been working on more sequels. The Minions Rise of Gru is far from being the last Minions movie we see. I can see this franchise continuing to the point where I'm bringing my kids to see Minions, potentially. And it's still Steve Carell doing his bit. And he loves voicing over Gru. He talks in detail about how the Minions franchise for him really symbolizes his kids growing up. Because when they were very little, they were the audience for the first Minions movie, or Despicable Me. They were the audience for Despicable Me. And they had a little classroom screening for his kids' class. So it was a cute way for him to bond with them. But now they've grown up. And in this movie, Gru has shrunken down. It was a weird step back for him because now his kids are older, but Gru is younger. It was just cute hearing him talk about that.
That is pretty neat.
He has a deep love. He has a deep love for the franchise. I think it shows. I mean, it is a kids movie. I didn't go into it expecting Top Gun Maverick. I didn't go into it expecting Baz Luhrmann. You have to go into Minions knowing what you're getting into.
Yeah. I do think that sometimes kids' movies overcomplicate plot lines, and I do like that Groot did not. It was like, this is a scenario, this is a conflict, this is how he's gonna get to it, this is the mentor, and then that's it. That's all you need.
It was perfect. It was really simple. We had our training action montages that I think every kids movie has these days. There has to be some cute montage. And the minions had to learn kung fu at some point. And I'm so glad that it was Master Chow that taught them. She was so cool. But Minions Rise of Gru
Is really showing you the beginning of how they get to where we meet in Despicable Me.
it's the precursor that I personally didn't ask for. I didn't really want it. I've seen Despicable Me, but I haven't seen any of the other Minions movies.
I've watched all of them because so I had kids growing up in my life around Despicable Me, and they loved it. So they watched Despicable Me, they watched Despicable 2, Despicable 3. So like I got to watch those movies a lot, not by choice. Children can be very convincing. But Minions one, I did watch it. I did like it more than.
So there's a Minions franchise and Despicable Me franchise, and this is the precursor to both of them.
So Minions is the first movie before they even meet Gru. Like the first movie is before they meet Gru, and at the end of Minions 1, they meet Gru, and they decide he is the actual
Mini boss.
Yes, like all of Minions 1, they're looking for a villain boss. And then they finally meet Groot and they fall in love. It's like their one true love. And then in Minions 2, which is this one is, Rise of Gru, you see kind of like the other side of it. So it took all of Minions 1 for the Minions to fall in love with Groot eventually, because he comes out at the very, very end. It's like love at first sight for them. And then in Minions 2, it's like this is Groot falling in love with the Minions.
That was one, so beautifully explained. Thank you. Two, if I ever go to film trivia and they talk about Minions, I'll be able to list them chronologically. And I think that's important as a film person to know the chronological structure of the Despicable Me and Minions universe. Because, as we keep saying and alluding to, this franchise is going to be here for a while. I might have jinxed it. Why did I just feel like I saw the closed sign light up on top of the Illumination studio?
Oh, God, no.
I hope not. We need more animation studios open.
Well, yeah, I mean.
But we need less fart and butt jokes.
It is. It was so excessive. And that's the cream of the crop of Minions, though. They always have those jokes.
I'm not speaking to you, Brad Abelson. I'm not speaking to you, Kyle Baldo. I think it's Baldo. I might have written it wrong. But animation directors, specifically children's animation, sitting through the movie trailers is painful for adults. I love animation, and I want to make children's movies one day. That would bring me so much joy in this life and so much purpose. But sitting through all the fart and butt jokes for another Talking Dog movie, after another Talking Dog movie, after another, there were 3 Talking Dog movies coming out right now. I wanted to leave before the movie even started. I think the children's animation industry needs a call to reformation. I want a transformation in that industry because I get it. Poop jokes are funny to kids. Fart jokes are funny to kids.
I think physical comedy is funny to kids, not specifically poop jokes or fart jokes. I think physical comedy, and that's what Minions have. They are very physical comedians. And that's why I think that kids really kind of zoned in on them. But I think, to be fair, I don't know. I have seen kids like just go, laughing throughout the movie. So they may like butt jokes, but I feel like physical comedy can elevate their comedy level even as kids.
1000%. I think physical comedy elevates any comedy. I think adults love physical comedy. We've seen that in more physical comedic editing, like Edgar Wright's movies. Hot Fuzz is a brilliant example of comedic timing. I think Edgar Wright does a really good job with physical comedy. And then, of course, there's Charlie Chaplin, who I think invented physical comedy. But that was also before we had talkies. That was before people could really communicate jokes. People watched it purely for physical comedy. Also purely for him getting injured.
Several times. And there is a funny element to people getting injured. As humans, I don't know what it is,
but we will always laugh at poop, farts, and people getting physically injured.
And that's the Minions.
And that's the Minions. That's the basis of most kids' movies. And I think we're growing from that. I know Mitchell's versus the Machines really pushed away from those immature jokes. I feel like Pixar's really growing from that. I still think a lot of other studios really rely on it. It's an old trick that's worked. I think we're growing and thankfully, hopefully, pushing away from it. But the Minions did have it, but I would say a lot less.
I don't know. I remember seeing a lot of Minion butts.
I loved the Minion butts. I don't like the Minions, but the Minion butts are cool. I enjoyed those. There was a lot of little booty shots. But, so we spoke about Gru being voiced by Steve Carell, who I think is such an incredible actor. He has yet to disappoint me. Steve Carell, if you somehow stumble upon this podcast, please preserve your reputation. There's so many actors that have really broken my heart. And if you did too, I don't think I would be able to get it back together. He means a lot to me, and he's done a really good job being a voice of reason in such a chaotic industry. This could be a podcast episode of its own. We don't need to go into all the film scandals, but it is an ego-driven industry. And Steve Carell really seems like he has his shit together. In an Adam Sandler way. They seem really chill and relaxed about stuff. And he loves this franchise. And he talked a lot about how Minions Rise of Gru really challenged him because he had to speak like a young version of Gru instead of this vague European accent. It was a vague European accent, but with a higher element to it. I can't do it. It's too early, and my voice is simply too deep, and I'm not the voice actor that Steve Carell is. But it is a younger voice for Gru, and he did it very well. But also, we have to talk about the Minions' voices. Pierre Coffin is the voice for all the Minions, which is bonkers. Makes sense. They all have a similar Minions tone to them that I cannot replicate, as I keep saying, because I'm not a voice actor. Also, major props to the studio that created Minions Rise of Gru. A COVID production is not an easy production, and they made this movie during COVID entirely.
Way to go, Illumination.
Way to go. We see you. We recognize you as an unemployed animator at the time. I wish I'd worked for you. Next time I'll send you my resume. But soon you will know. You will know who I am, and I want to work for you. I don't know who I'm talking to anymore. It's very early, and I'm very dehydrated.
That's funny, because during COVID, I actually started doing more video editing. But for YouTubers, because, that was, who was really,
That was a series of time where I just worked on my independent projects, but without the accountability of a program and without me having found my own system for holding myself accountable, I just wasn't getting shit done. And I was applying to jobs, and I was 3D modeling an RV that I want to live in and I still dream about. But it was a very slow time for me, and it made me really reevaluate me as a creative, me as an artist, and also my workflow. I need accountability. Help me understand that I at least need to start in studios so I can have deadlines and get shit done.
Yeah, deadlines they're annoying when you have them, but they're so crucial to, creating art, because as an artist, you always want to fix everything. There's always something you can fix.
True.
And without a deadline, you're just never going to finish.
It's the classic struggle for every artist of you want to work on your projects, you want to do your shit that you love. But when you're doing shit that you love for yourself, it's easy to be lenient. It's easy to never be done. As Vincent van Gogh put it, and I'm summarizing him, an artist's work is never done. You can nitpick a painting, you can nitpick an animation, compositing, you can nitpick any creative project to the point where it's never finished. And so as a creative, having that deadline where you have to just say, okay, fine, I hate it, but it's done, that is a massive blessing. And it's hard getting to that balance. And I'm still learning it. I'm still figuring it out. I would love to be able to get my shit done for myself and be able to just say, the baby's done. It's out there in the world. Let's let it walk on its own. Let's do something new. It's hard for me to just crank those projects out. But
You talking about this actually makes me super confident because this week I decided that I'm going to do a new YouTube channel. Not gonna take away from my current YouTube channel.
Also,
I love that.
plug it. Plug your current YouTube channel.
Oh, Page to Frame Storytelling. I think I plugged it in for Maverick.
Plug it every time.
Plug it in every time. I'll link to that somewhere in the bio or something. But I break down VFX for that. I break down VFX for that YouTube channel. But I want to make a new one where it's animation. Because I have 2 short animation thoughts that I want to do. And then, yeah, I wanted to work with you. And
Yes.
just to see, like, just I want to make little short animation movies.
Yes. They're taking off on TikTok right now. There's so many channels that do really simple puppeting with just one cute character. I'm wearing you can't see under the table. I'm wearing my Gudetama socks today. Who's that little Japanese egg boy with the butt?
Oh, nice.
The minion butt. Okay, to wrap up this creative talk, I just want to give just a quick little note to artists out there and mainly myself because I'm struggling with this. Learning that the promises you make to yourself are the most important to keep is a lifelong lesson. But the sooner you learn that as an artist, I believe the sooner you develop your aesthetic, you develop respect for your craft, and you start developing your body of work. Because once you start getting shit done and getting it out there, even if you don't love it, but just saying it's done, I respect my own deadline I've set for myself, the more progress you start making.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. God knows it's not easy. And I really am struggling with those deadlines that I set on myself. But learning to respect myself and respect when I say, nope, this is done, is so important. And it's so hard, but it will be worth it in the long run.
Well, I like how consistent we have been for this podcast. We do it every 2 weeks.
That's one of your strengths. I know you're very good at scheduling. You're good at deadlines. You're good at getting shit done. And that's where I'm struggling right now. So the accountability of doing this every week and going to the movies and seeing these new productions and researching them, it's really holding me accountable and it's making me a better creative. And so I'm learning a lot from you.
Thank you. I did not intend to do that.
No, I really needed someone like you in my life. And so I'm really grateful that we've had this ability to talk about what we care about.
Which is film.
Which is film. Okay. We have to talk about, for me, the most important part of the Minions Rise of Gru, other than the fans wearing suits to the theaters. That was amazing.
I love that trend. That was a great trend.
Whoever decided to get the fans to rally around this movie in the way that they did.
Fantastic.
Genius. And it's showing in the box office. It's the highest grossing film for 4th of July weekend.
Yeah, they are afraid, though, that since the trend is dying, that the box office will die.
They've already made it, I think, over is like 800 million.
Oh, my goodness.
Or something crazy. That actually, this is a small segment I would like to call Fact Check Phil, where I just typed in Google Fact Check Phil. What was I searching again? I need a little drum roll. Okay. It's going down, as you said, but domestic total, as of 5 days ago, is 154.1 million.
That's still quite a bit. Yeah.
There's still a ratio in movies where the majority of movies that are produced, unless they're through a major studio and they can outsource or ship the movies to other countries, usually it's 1 in 20 movies make back the money they put in.
That's a fair ratio.
Well, there's also a lot of independent people making movies and putting them on Amazon Prime, and there's so many awesome ways to view independent content these days. Which YouTube, we love it. But very rarely do they make back the cost of production.
Fair point, yeah.
That's the hard thing about this industry is it's such a big risk. And entertainment in general is a risk taker's game. But Minions Rise of Gru has made back their money. And I think it was a very explosive movie theater arrival. It didn't show up quietly. They had such good planning ahead of time. For example, those posters they put out promoting the soundtrack for Tame Impala and Diana Ross helped produce the Minions Rise of Gru soundtrack, and they put out all these groovy 70s posters. I know in New York, I'm not sure what other major cities. And it was mainly Tame Impala, Diana Ross focused. And all these people were going up being like, whoa, like this is going to be such a good album. What in the world? Why are they together? And then at the bottom in kind of small, it said Minions Rise of Gru. And I put it on my story. I was blown away. I thought, wow, what a cool album. And then I thought, no fucking way, it's for a Minions movie? Like, am I about to go see the newest Minions movie?
Just for the soundtrack.
Just for the soundtrack. And I did. And I'm really glad I did. I'm a trendy girl. You can tell by my TikTok. I love groovy trends. And right now, 70s psychedelic nostalgia is very trendy. So one, for Minions Rise of Gru to take place in the 70s, genius.
Yes.
Soundtrack-wise, it held up itself. The music on its own could have supported the entire film. It could have been shitty storytelling, and I still would have loved it. Because the music was so good. The whole time, I was like bopping in my seat, because it's music that we grew up with. It's music that we know and love. And also parents grew up with, and grandparents grew up with.
Oh no, I think the soundtrack was very much for the older crowd, and I think that's a balancing act that family movies have to do, is they have to appease the children, have it be fun, have it be entertaining, but also you put parents in those seats too. So you have to kind of like...
That is where Shrek revolutionized children's entertainment for me.
I freaking love Shrek.
We love Shrek. I mean, I'm part of the Shrek generation. I will always Shrek myself before I wreck myself. Point that we're making here is Shrek understood that it's just as much about the parents as it is about the kids. And yes. Minions Rise of Gru nailed that through the nostalgia, through the music, through the hilarious villains. Nunchucks, take me home. I'm going to be Nunchucks for Halloween. I've been tossing around a lot of Halloween costumes. And the fact that this movie...
Ooh, I should be the chick, the one with
bell bottoms?
Yes.
The Vicious Six? Was that? Yeah, the Vicious Six made the movie for me.
Gru made the movie for me, but I like Gru.
And there were so many things. There were so many cute moments of Gru as a child that tied back frame for frame with Despicable Me that I was obsessed with. So when he goes into the ice cream shop and he sprays them all with cheese, if you look at how he uses the gun and how he sprays the people with cheese, it's frame for frame identical to when in Despicable Me he's hitting them with like slime, or there's a scene where he's like spraying them down. It's the exact same approach and format that he uses.
Oh, that's so cool.
It was a lot of young Gru's antics are mirrors of his Despicable Me routine. I have so many things to say about how Minions Rise of Gru really studied Despicable Me and took more things than I was able to pick up on. So many things that went over my head, but Minions Rise of Gru analyzed Despicable Me, took so many Easter eggs from it, and applied it to Gru's childhood that they tie together so intentionally, so seamlessly. It's not just Gru growing up. It's his relationship with the Minions developing. It's Gru understanding who he wants to become, which is the Vicious Six. We see finally this image of villains and where he gets this inspiration from.
I love the artwork for his room. I love, like, it's like, you know, when you had your favorite K-pop or your favorite artist or boy band or whatever it is.
Mine was Twilight. So much Twilight.
Mine was Backstreet Boys, actually.
Wow, I love that the Vicious Six were Gru's Backstreet Boys. And they were really framed as these pop stars,
Yeah.
It was so beautifully designed. Also, the Vicious Six, their height ratios, that is an important part of character design, is how they line up together. You want a variation of heights, widths, ethnicities, styles, and the Vicious Six nailed that really well. So we had Wild Knuckles, who's this old, he kind of looked like a leather daddy.
He kind of looked like Gru.
He did. It looks like Gru's father. I know he wasn't Gru's father. Other spoiler, I kept waiting for that because their schnozzes were the same.
And their voices were very similar. I was like, what?
But that also is because, and that was intentionally done by the voice acting, because they want Gru to grow up to be Wild Knuckles. And if you look at Wild Knuckles' couch, it's that alligator couch that's made out of an alligator. A lot of Wild Knuckles furniture Gru inherits. It's in his house when he gets older. Mm-hmm. So not only does Gru want to grow up to be Wild Knuckles, he inherits so much of Wild Knuckles' life.
Yeah.
And so if they have similarities in their voices, that checks out. That was intentional. And so, yeah, we got Wild Knuckles, our leather daddy, who Gru idolizes. That's who Gru wants to be when he grows up.
His favorite villain.
Favorite villain. He's the founder of the Vicious Six.
Yes.
And unfortunately is the one that they boot out of the Vicious Six first.
Well, I knew that they were going to do that because Bottoms was, like, so alpha that I was like, how is she not the boss?
I love an alpha Bottoms. 2, she was more than a bottom bitch. Bell Bottom is the opening scene eye catcher for me.
Yeah.
She's this badass, purple, throw, groovy woman on a motorcycle, just getting shit done.
Yeah.
She's not waiting around for someone to take care of things. And she has a team of 5 other people that can get shit done. And they're all strong. They're all really powerful villains that all have their own little niches that are so creative. But Bell Bottom is our lead. She's really... It's a film of antagonists. Gru's our protagonist. He's our protagonist-antagonist. She's our antagonist-antagonist. It's a double negative.
Yeah.
But that is the Despicable Me franchises. It is this beloved, it's this cute, sweet double negative.
Yeah, it's literally about villains.
They're committing crimes, and we're rooting for them to steal the moon. We're rooting for them to steal valuable shit from the authorities. We're rooting for them to rule the world.
Yeah. Which I love.
And I love that twist. And so on its own, this whole villain celebration theme is really strong for the Minions franchise. I'm a big fan of it, and Bell Bottom encompasses that for me.
I like that all of
the Vicious Six
all were believable top villains. They weren't like, when they went after the Minions or Groot, there was never a time where I'm like, oh, something silly's gonna like mess them up, or they're gonna like be bumbling people that, you know, aren't, like, you're gonna wonder why they're even the Sinister Six.
That's the Minions, though. The Minions are all the goofiness of villainy that we can handle.
Yeah, but no, because there's other movies that, like, make these big, badass characters, and then when they, like, actually, like, fight or have a sequence or do what they're, like, hyped up to do, they don't live up to that hype.
Oh.
And I like that Sinister Six kind of does. Of course, to the level of a child. But, and by that I mean, like, it's not like Suicide Squad or anything where they're, like, massacring people.
Ooh, I want to draw a parallel between the Vicious Six and Big Hero 6.
Interesting.
I would say, and I didn't think about this until now, and I haven't read anything on it, and I think the only commonality between them is that superhero, supervillain, 6 and 6 of them. But you have to have a similar dynamic of 6 independently strong people that come together to be an unstoppable force.
Yeah.
They were each member of the Vicious Six could hold their own, but together they could dominate the world.
Yes, I loved that.
And we haven't even talked about the best. Well, in my opinion, Bell Bottom, the lead. She's her antagonist. She's the most important Vicious Six.
Fair point. Aside from Knuckles.
Well, Knuckles. He's also really important, but he's technically not a Vicious Six for the majority of the movie.
Fair point.
But there's not 6 of them for the majority of the movie. But then we get Stronghold, John Claude, and Nunchuck. And let me say, I loved them. Stronghold does fade into the background. Or at least to me, Stronghold he didn't stand out.
Yeah, you could see how
he's the muscle.
Yeah, you could see how he was part of the Sinister Six, but he was definitely a background character.
In Big Hero 6, I would say every single superhero has their shining moment. In the Vicious Six, Stronghold never has a shining moment. He's just the brawn. He's there to be strong dude with metal fists throwing cars. That's what he is. That's all you really get from him. But he is voiced by Danny Trejo. He's voiced by Machete. Or Machete. And they asked him to not do any voices. They just told him to be Machete.
Hey, when you have machete, you have machete.
They brought in Danny Trejo and they said, no, Danny, be Danny Trejo. Be yourself. And I love that. He got what he wanted. He didn't want something overcomplicated. He doesn't like movies where you have to think too much. And so they brought him in as Stronghold and he just did his own thing. And it did fade into the background. But it's hilarious that such a famous actor is the character that I paid the least attention to. Also, speaking of famous actors that I didn't pay attention to, Gru's mom.
How did you not hear it? I heard it from like the moment she talked.
I did not know it was Julie Andrews.
I love her.
And she's our grandmother.
Yes.
She's everyone's grandmother. If you watched Princess Diaries, she is now in your royal family.
Yes.
That is just how Julia Andrews has worked her way into all of our lives. And she said playing Gru's mom was incredibly difficult. Just because she's grumpy. She's not a very nice lady.
I loved hearing her. Like, as soon as I heard her voice, it was contrast to all the characters that I've seen her play. Mm-hmm. Because I've watched her lineup of, like, Sound of Music and everything. And Mary Poppins, we all know. But it was interesting I'm like, I would love to have seen her in a recording booth just like saying these lines. I just wanted to see that. Girl, more than anything else.
You're not ready. You're not ready for the news I'm about to give you. As we mentioned earlier, this was a COVID film. And Julia Andrews, beloved icon, needed to be protected during COVID. So she didn't record any of this in a recording studio. She didn't do any of this shit in any studio. She has a nephew or a member of her family that came into her house and took one of her closets and converted it into a little sound room for her, put up some of these pads, and she describes it as she was in her own little blanket fort recording all the audio.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that was part of COVID for everyone, was recording studios at home. And there's a lot of podcasters and a lot of people that took COVID as their time to develop voice acting further and to start recording independently. And Julia Andrews, that's not her end goal. She's Julia Andrews. She doesn't need to do Gru's mom's voice. But the fact that she went through that cute little blanket fort, closet, voice recording independent journey for us.
That's awesome.
It's awesome. And we appreciate you for that, even though her role was really small.
But she stole every scene she was in.
She did the Tupperware party. I was rolling. I loved they had a 70s Tupperware party.
I love how the Minions were helping selling everything. It was just so great.
The Minions had to earn their keep.
She did say that. She did say that.
And there's so many of them. Ugh, there was just... And in the Minions, there were our 4 main Minions. There was those 3 that I'm assuming are like...
the main.
The main ones. And then there was like the lovable goof that screws up and then has to rise to the occasion. He has to go get the jewel. He has a sick-ass road trip with like that really hot man.
It is that hot uncle.
It was a really hot uncle with an open shirt on a groovy motorcycle, groovy helmet with this Japanese pendant. I was drooling. And then that cute little annoying... Did he have braces? That Minion, I think, had braces.
I can't remember.
I'm pretty confident the thicker Minion had to have braces. But he got this like amazing adventure with this hot uncle while the other stole a plane and learned Kung Fu.
Oh, yeah.
Technically there were three separate arcs at one point. We break in the story and we get the 3 Minions that steal the plane and go to San Francisco, learn Kung Fu from Master Chow, Master Chow, my queen. Okay. This is also a small side little note. There are a few cultures I love and geek out about more than Chinese culture. I think Chinese culture is just one of the best things on this planet.
Fair point, yeah.
And that I'm also massive into Japanese culture. I can weeaboo out. Clearly, I love animation. There's nerdy shit to unpack there. This isn't about that. Chinese culture is so rich. They have the architecture that America just will never have. But China in general is just such a vast, powerful empire. And to have the cute little Chinatown experience in Minions Rise of Gru, and they go into Master Chow's domain, and she's doing her acupuncture.
Oh, yeah.
When they are in the outdoor Chinatown scene, and Master Chow is doing her acupuncture, and she sees them, but she's still in her zone, and she goes and stands up for the little guys.
I love how the Sinister Six, or whoever was going after the minions.
It was Wild Knuckles' assistants, the unpaid interns, those unpaid beefy men that lived in his house with him.
That's right. They were like beating, and then they saw her and they were like, go inside, old woman, or something like that. And I love that you get, because that's a cliche in those types of movies, where it's like the older mentor type person where no one thinks that they can fight, and then they suddenly fight. Like, it makes me think of Karate Kid. That's what Mr. Miyagi happens to do, and just like all those types of movies have that trope, and I like that they used it very well.
They did.
In this movie.
But also in Chinese culture and in most Asian cultures, you respect your matriarch, you respect your patriarch. There's a level of respecting your elders. And so for them to be in Master Chow's realm during her acupuncture session where she's doing her work and they disturb her and they're hurting these tiny little minions, I love that she can come out and put them in their place, kick their ass, and then she just returns to her place and she continues doing her acupuncture.
Oh yeah, that was always great.
And her using the needles to control the man at the table to like wave people away. I think she smacks someone with the acupuncture dude at some point, right?
Minions.
The minions. I loved that scene. It was our generic training montage that follows. That little minion arc with Master Chow, I would say was one of the more minor plots, but it was so cute.
But it was set up so well that I think it works, and it pays off with them like fighting, doing kung fu against the Sinister Six.
Yeah, and they also talk a lot about the Zodiac. So the main thing the Sinister Six steal is this jade pendant with the Zodiac creatures living inside of it, which the Zodiac is already such beautiful lore. I just love the Chinese Zodiac. I think it's so gorgeous. And I also love Fruits Basket, which is a Japanese anime about the Zodiac. So growing up, the Chinese Zodiac was something I always was really obsessed with. And so seeing how they brought that pennant in, I knew from the minute they mentioned it was a Zodiac pennant that we were going to get these character transformations. We were going to get the Zodiac creatures. We're going to get the dragon, rabbit, ox, boar, that kind of shit. And so when the minions started doing their kung fu training, there was a hint to me that they were going to become those animals at some point.
Oh, interesting. I did not get that at all.
Maybe it was also in a trailer because I saw that bunny.
Oh, I knew they were, going to turn into that, but only because of the trailer.
That's probably, I'm giving myself more credit than I honestly deserve. We did see it in the trailer, but the Zodiac element and infusing that with the minions and giving us this cute chicken, ram, and bunny minion version that still look like minions, and then he eggs out that little baby bird.
Yeah, that was weird.
It was weird, but it was so cute, and I get why kids would love that, and I get why they included it. Taking a step back to the Vicious Six, you got Wild Knuckles, got Bell Bottom, we got Stronghold, it's Machete, and then we get the villain name that made me laugh every time I heard it, every time I saw him. You could hear me the whole movie going, ha, Jean-Claude. The fact that they got Jean-Claude Van Damme to voice a villain named Jean-Claude, who was straight up a Clockwork Orange character with a gigantic lobster claw. Loved it. Amazing. Truly I don't say this often. Give them an Oscar. Make an Oscar for them. We need children's movie character Oscar awards. Give it to Jean-Claude because that was hilarious. Every time I saw him, I was cackling. I was rolling in my seat. That pun was great. The way he looked was so ridiculous and silly. And he really didn't do a lot as a villain. But just the concept of Jean-Claude and that they got Jean-Claude Van Damme to voice him over, who's just one of the greatest action heroes of all time. And this movie did have a lot of montages that were call-outs and a lot of little Easter eggs to action movies. Just well done. All in all, came together really beautifully. And then, final Vicious 6. Nunchuck. Nunchuck. I will be you for Halloween. I want to be you for Halloween. The way that she, one, enters battle scenes. She, like, comes down like, oh, there's a beam on her. She has her cross right here. And then she breaks the cross into nunchucks. I know it was supposed to be kind of sacrilegious. And as a person that, like, loves studying religion, I think Christianity is, and especially Catholicism, really fascinating to research into. Nunchuck's character did it for me. And then I was sold on Nunchuck, 100% loved her. She was a little badass. We needed her for the height ratio. We needed someone short. But then for her to have the most badass vehicle I've ever seen in anything animated. And when it comes to animated cars, you can do anything. And this movie did a lot with animated car design. There were some amazing cars. There were so many groovy buses. There were so many cool vintage cars throughout this entire movie that I just want to buy their 3D models. I want them. They were so cool. But for Nunchuck, for them to have the audacity to give the smallest, oldest Vicious 6 member the most badass car I've ever seen, it really sold the movie for me even more. It really had me starstruck. I was blown away. So if you haven't seen it yet and you're just listening to this, allow me to paint for you a picture of Nunchuck's car. I want you to think of a teal and gold Thunderbird. I don't know my car super well, but it's, when you think of a 70s old woman car, it's that, but it's so pimp. And then the back of it is a motherfucking church organ with all the pipes.
I love the organs.
I want to rewatch that movie just to listen to the sound effects because there's so much you can do with a church organ car. I was blown away. I was absolutely just blown away by Nunchuck. We do have to say real quick, this movie, and we just saw Elvis. Elvis was a love letter to a very groovy time. And Minions Rise of Gru was another love letter to a really groovy, shagadelic, amazing time period. And they did such a good job with the art, the car designs, the environment designs, the costume designs. Awesome. And in animation, there are no freebies. There was nothing that they got, like no sound effects for free, nothing that was easy. They had to create everything in that universe from scratch or take the minions that were already rigged and grew and adapt them, which they can do. They own them. But their 70s injection was not only just a genius move for the parents, but stylistically brilliant. And in San Francisco and in Chinatown, Minions Rise of Gru's environments, especially to me as someone that focuses on that more than I focus on the characters, I was in heaven. I was drooling. All the Chinese lanterns in the parade, all the San Francisco building architecture, Wild Knuckles' crazy house that was a W, that was like a San Francisco classic Victorian house, but
I liked his house.
W'd out. So cool. Gru's house growing up. The tricycle even that little minion stole. The motorcycle that he eventually gets on. From an animation, from a 3D modeling perspective, this movie was stylized just brilliantly. It all came together with this incredible soundtrack. With Tame Impala, Diana Ross, 70s tunes. To just create this wonderful, psychedelic, trippy, Minion fever dream that I was there for.
Fever dream. Yes.
I was there for. And of course, we get to review a movie depending on the audience. We're going to review Elvis, Top Gun. We're going to review those differently because they're for adults. And we are going to review kids' movies like Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers and Minions Rise of Gru. But for this audience specifically, and also taking into account the franchise that Despicable Me has built, the Minions love that, I don't know what it is with straight white men, but straight white men love Minions. If I see one more groom's cake with a Minion on it, I'm going to eat that Twinkie. Like, I'm just going to take it. I don't know what it is. Maybe that's just my online dating experience. I've met way too many men that just love Minions that it's made me not love them. So for them to sell this movie, not just to their franchise, to the people that love them, but to me, who's a hater, I love hating on the Minions. I think they're stupid looking. But for me to be excited to go to this movie and really hyped and entertained the entire time, well done. That shows some mastery. That shows that you've learned from what has been critiqued. You've learned from what people have criticized your franchise for, and you've really grown. And of course, the climax action, I did have some issues with how the Minions went from being completely useless to being completely all dominating.
Awesome.
They were awesome. There was a level of disconnect there for me, and there were things that didn't work. But overall, as a kids movie, Minions Rise of Gru is such a solid prequel?
It is a sequel to the first prequel.
But even without those movies, it's a strong standalone movie.
Oh, it is. That is one thing I like. But if you've seen Despicable Me, you will enjoy it a little bit more. So I love that Knuckles tells Groot to reach for the moon, because in Despicable Me 1, that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to steal the moon. So it's great that Knuckles kind of maybe put the seeds in there. I like that they do have those types of callbacks in this movie. So all of that really elevates both Despicable Me and Rise of Gru. However, you do not need to watch Despicable Me to enjoy Rise of Gru. You definitely do not need to watch Minions 1. It is so separate. It actually breaks lore a little bit, because in this movie, it makes it seem like they followed Groot to his house and then they begged him to like stay in his home, when he, from my remembering of Minions 1, they meet him on the street and then he like, yeah, sure, come with me or whatever type of thing. So there is a little bit of how they actually met is a little wonky.
See, I haven't seen Minions, but I wanna ball it up and just kind of throw it away. I think once I eventually spawn my clan and I have little fillies running around, I'm gonna take them to see Minions Rise of Gru. They will be in suits. They will be clean cut.
It'll be great.
They'll be fresh as shit. We'll be wearing sunglasses the whole time. It'll be dope. I'll take them to see Minions Rise of Gru. And then I'll take them to see Despicable Me.
And then 2, 3.
And then 2 and 3. And then maybe 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't know the direction they're going in, but I know that Steve Carell's already recorded 4. Despicable Me 4? I think they're on 4.
Well, they haven't done 4th yet.
But they've already started recording it. He's already started working on it.
Cool.
So that's upcoming. But one last note before we leave y'all today.
Yeah.
I love the movie theater experience for the fact that I can escape and go be in someone else's world. But Minions Rise of Gru not only brings you to the 70s, to this groovy time, it allows you to be a kid again.
Yeah.
It allows you to laugh at the Minions' butts. There's fart jokes. There's things that I don't necessarily miss from kids' movies or from childhood. But there is an energy to it, that and a community to the Minions franchise that I fed into, that I wanted to be a part of. Even without my suit.
Yes, we did. We did go in like joggers and...
I didn't have a suit, and it has been my joke. I'm back on online dating, which sucks, but everybody on Bumble and Hinge that has a suit that I think is attractive, of course I've commented and said, you go into the Minions movie? It's such an easy line, and it's so stupid. It just might find me love. So thank you, Minions Rise of Gru.
You guys are awesome.
You guys are awesome. We really enjoyed that movie. I'm excited to see what Brad Abelson, Kyle Baldo, and Steve Carell do with this franchise.
Yes. Let us know your thoughts. Hit us up on TikTok and on Instagram. We will have the link tree to also Phyllis's TikTok and my YouTube channel.
Yes, we're both making independent content. We both make very different things, but in a really fun way, which is why we love coming together for this podcast, because she views things from a VFX standpoint. I view things from like an ADD creative standpoint. I don't even know. I have my own
Awesomeness.
I have a Phyllis outlook on life. And we're so grateful for you guys for tuning in and listening with us. Let us know in the comments if you think we should just kick the Minions movie out. Do we think we need it anymore? I don't think we do. I haven't seen it, so I'm not the one to weigh in and say if we need it or not. But I want to know what you think. If you've seen Minions and Minions Rise of Gru, I want to know in the comments, do we need to get rid of Minions? Is there a place in this world for both of them?
Maybe.
Maybe. But I think no.
All right, guys. Y'all have a great day, and thank you.
Thank y'all. And once again, I'm Phyllis.
And I'm Gabby.
And this is Blooper Troopers.
Yay!